welcome to another episode of Feminine Scope, a program where we discuss issues concerning women, celebrating their triumphs and seeking ways to solve their challenges. I am Blessing Ejeh. Most times when we think about career barriers in women, what comes to mind immediately is sexual harassment in the workplace. There are lots of challenges women face in the workplace, from working as hard as the male folks and receiving lesser pay, to their careers being negatively impacted because they have children. Today on Feminine Scope, we'll be discussing career barriers and workplace sexual harassment against young women in Nigeria. My guest for today is the project officer, Her Women Hub, a social enterprise born out of the need to see more young women take on more venture into leadership opportunities. You'll get to meet her after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Female, unmarried, young employee is prone to be sexually harassed in the workplace for so many reasons. They are vulnerable because they are employees and sometimes can't seem to do anything about it. Imagine a young girl who has searched for a job for a very long time, finally gets one and starts experiencing sexual harassment in the office. This will definitely lead to career barrier. So today we'll be discussing career barriers and workplace sexual harassment against young women. What it is, how to know if you're being sexually harassed, and what to do. My guest is the project officer, Her Women Hub, a social enterprise born out of the need to see more young women take on more venture into leadership opportunities. Blessing Ejeh. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being on this show.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So we've been talking about career barriers, sexual harassment. First, let me ask, what is career barrier?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Career barriers, I would say, is any factor internally or externally that hinders progression in terms of career development. Why I said internally could be personal, within the person, and then it could be within the work environment. Those factors that limit somebody's advancement career-wise is considered as a barrier, career barrier.
Okay, what are the common factors of career barriers?
Okay, based on our research, which is supported by Ford Foundation, we conducted an interview. We had a face-to-face with 60 young women within the FCT, and we also had an online respondent of 1,000 young women. We discovered that one of the commonest career barrier is bullying and intimidation, because 75.5% of our respondents revealed that they were bullied at work. And then we also have inflexible work hours. You know, some people tend to work Saturdays, Sunday. So you would want to imagine, how would this person even have a social life, because from Monday to Sunday you are at work. So that also was part of the barriers we identified from our research. And then we have lack of organizational support for females. Some organizations do not even make provisions that will aid female staffs within their organization. Like when a woman is working, gets married and gives birth, she would be forced to maybe keep her baby with somebody because her organization does not have like a daycare, a crèche, yeah. So we also discovered that an inadequate job development and trainings for workers. Some people just employ you and they have this notion that you are a superwoman, so you should know everything about the job. So you just come in and then next thing you are meant to deliver, and that's not proper. And then we also have women being restricted to certain roles because of their gender. You cannot attain to leadership position within your organization, because when we further interrogated about policies, how they were made, we discovered that there were lack of women in management and managerial positions. So that's where part of the barriers we looked at.
What can you say about the wage disparity?
Okay.
Is it part of career barrier too? Because women, most times a woman who is as qualified as the man, when it comes to the wages, they say, okay, because she's a woman, she's paid lower than the man. Was that part of the survey that was conducted?
Not really. Our questions didn't focus on wage disparity, but I feel it's also a barrier because when a woman is qualified to earn a certain wage and just she's discriminated against. So barrier is any hindrance. So that discrimination is an hindrance. So I consider that as a barrier. So
okay, when all these things are discovered, what can the women do to overcome this?
Okay, I feel that with engaging more in capacity development as a young lady would also make you stand out, because when you bring out your portfolio, not just it written down, but you can perform when you are being tested practically, you deliver. I don't think anybody will want to discriminate or marginalize you. And also, I feel that being bold enough to demand for your rights, in as much as you are trying to look for a job, you shouldn't, there are certain things you shouldn't accept. You should be bold enough to accept your demand for what is yours. You do research about the organization you're about to enter. What is the wage for that position? Then when you come to the negotiating table, you shouldn't take less than what you are entitled for.
But most times it's kind of difficult, because imagine a young lady who has been out searching for a job for like 2-3 years, and they now come into an organization. They'll see the lady as being very forward. How will she go about it? Because, I mean, they are trying to give her a job. They feel they are giving her an opportunity. So why would she demand, for what she feels she should be earning?
Okay, as a young lady going into that organization, she's doing it either ways. Both parties are going to benefit. It's not like she's the only one at the receiving end. She's going to contribute to the growth of that organization. So we should also consider that employees are human beings with their rights, and they are entitled to demanding for their rights. So that young lady, that's why I said capacity development is important. Those years she's been at home, job hunting, what was she engaged in? There are volunteering opportunities to build her capacity. You can take internship, unpaid internship. So now you've built your capacity and you are going into that organization to grow the organization. So I don't see it as being too forward. Rather, the organization, maybe that organization is not even the right organization for you to venture into, because there are some organizations that do not have that growth mindset for their employees. They just want you to be limited. So if you have the right skills, you have the right experience, I don't see it as being too far to demand for your rights.
Now we're talking about career barriers and sexual harassment. We know this is a very common thing in the society. Yeah. First, a survey was conducted by your organization, but I want to ask first, before I go into it proper, why did you do it? Why was the survey done, in quotes, in the workplace? Okay. Because I feel these people are already adults. Why not go down to the universities?
Okay. That's a very good question. We have a lot of organizations that are into gender rights and all, and each of these organizations have special areas they focused on. And during your introduction, you made mention that Air Women Hub is focused on young women. Yes. So venturing into leadership and taking on decision-making positions. So we thought of, okay, the workspace is an avenue for a woman to be economically empowered, yes. And then the workspace, we were not just focused on formal work environment, we also considered informal workspace, because all this contributes to the woman becoming empowered economically. And if you know the way the things runs in our country, if you want to go into leadership, you must have some level of financial independence. And then if a lady would be forced to leave her job because of one certain career barrier, or because she's being constantly faced by one boss demanding for a sexual favor in order for her to be promoted, in order for her to get that job, then she would not attain that leadership position we are aiming at achieving. And then we will not have gender bills, we will not have laws that will protect the young girl at home, on the streets. And that's why we focus more on workspace. Since we already have the bill, sexual harassment in tertiary institution bill, and there's no bill for sexual harassment in the workspace. There are no laws that clearly states that sexual harassment at work is an offense. In Nigerian law, we don't have that specified law. So that's why we channeled our focus on the workspace.
You know, once sexual harassment is mentioned, the word sex comes in. What are other kind of sexual harassments that happen in the offices?
Okay, we have the online stalking. You chatting, you know this person is not even interested, because sexual harassment is an unwelcomed sexual behavior that you are trying to get something, a favor in exchange for a sex, or, you know, so you are disturbing this person unnecessarily online. We have calls, you will pressurize this person through calls. We have gestures, looks. You just come to the office and somebody has used these looks to undress you. In fact, and you know, as a lady, you know, once somebody is looking at you that way,
in an appropriate way.
Yes, and you are uncomfortable. I was at a gathering and the lady was like, she is busty. At some point in her life, she was so shy of going to her office. She was shy to even get into gatherings, because she knows most guys are staring at her boss, and this is not proper. Then you have comments, jokes. To them, it is joke, but it's offensive. Like, who they service you, or God they try you, see as you hot. Those are part of
really
sexual
in the office.
Yes, space. Like a practical example that was shared with us last month. The lady was a corper serving at that is even a development sector like mine, an NGO, and a fellow staff came into the office and was like, girl, you look hot. If like say my rush enter you. That comment is not proper. Within the workspace, even outside, which one is be like say my rush you? Simple comments like you look good, you look nice. Let it end there. Not certain comments that are unnecessarily and unwelcomed.
Now, the survey that was carried out between the people in the age range of 18 and 35. Why did you decide to choose that age range?
Because for us, these are young women. Well, my organization is focused on young women. And according to the youth policy, the youths are defined, the age range is 18 to 35. So that's why our research was focused at that age range, 18 to 35, because we are focused on young women in Nigeria.
Now, when people notice that they are being sexually harassed in the office, how should they handle it, especially the women?
Wow.
Because most times, women, they are not taken serious when they complain.
Yeah.
It's something normal. People, you tell somebody, are you the only one? Boy? He's just looking at you. You understand that kind of thing. But you yourself know that it's not proper.
Yes.
So the first question is, how would you know? And how would you handle it? Because some people come in a very subtle way and you won't know they're trying to sexually harass?
Yes, that's true. For me, I would say, in order for you to properly identify when you're being sexually harassed, is defining your boundaries from the start. In as much as you want to be friends with your colleagues, know when I don't like this play, just be straightforward. Make sure that people understand that certain things do not go down well with you. And also, just as we have explained, sexual harassment is beyond physical touching or rape. It goes much to just verbal comments and all. So if you are in a situation whereby you are being harassed, you have to speak up. Yes, there is the culture of silence, the culture of victim blaming, like people you hear statement like maybe not the way you dress and all. But
trying to blame the
shift the blame on women, like we are the ones causing it. You are the one that presented yourself. That should not be allowed. Like, speak up. If you have a HR in your organization and you know you are certain that these people within that department are truthful and they can stand for your rights, you approach them, you speak up. Because if you are scared, just like you said, you've been job hunting for 2-3 years and you are scared of losing this job, maybe he's even the boss. Because from our research, 91% of our respondents said they were sexually harassed by their bosses. So even if he's your boss, you cannot continue in suffering in silence, because that person will continue to engage in that act. So you have to speak up. We need to break that culture of silence. And then you can reach us as an organization. We'll help you. We have a link to the FCT Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Response Team, and we'll take up the case because it's against the law. It's against your human rights. You are not there to become a sex tool. You are there to contribute to the development of the organization as well as gain a living for yourself. So you shouldn't be subjected to any form of harassment at all.
You know, sometimes there's this saying, your word against mine. So when they start noticing it, what should they do?
You can record. You have a phone. Yes, in as much as there's laws that maybe would say, why did you record without that person's permission? But this is your life. You are trying to protect your rights. So you can record those calls that come into your phone. You can record it. Chats. There was a recent report where the lady had to share the chat she had with her employee that was trying to sexually harass her, and she refused, and he started instructing her that she's not the only one. He's even doing her a favor. She shared it, and I believe help came for her. So you can record these things, have evidence against the person. Because
most times we always hear it's a man's world. So women are not taken seriously when such things happen, because they will be like, are you the only one? Now, when it is reported, have you ever seen a conclusive case that was prosecuted, especially when it comes to sexual harassment in the workplace?
Wow, I would not say, because we conducted this research last year. So I would not say that I've seen a case that the person was persecuted, but I believe that together we can achieve it. It would start from somebody. That gender bill that I mentioned, and this sex bill against sexual harassment at tertiary institution. How did it come about? It came about with a journalist doing an undercover investigation, and then came up that there are a lot of lecturers, beyond rumors, they had facts, and then they had to push for a bill to be made, a law to be made against that. So we need to speak up. The more we speak, the more would have people being disciplined, will have people being prosecuted. Yes, for now, we just have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which only defined sexual harassment, but really did not specify any punishment attached to it. But I still feel that is against human rights, and definitely once a victim speaks up, there will be justice for that person.
Okay, I'm going to read out the research that was conducted. It says that 55% of respondents are from the private sector. 26.6% are in the public sector, and 15% in the development sector. Why is it so high in the private sector? 55%. And who are the perpetrators of this sexual harassment at the workplace?
Okay, thank you for that question. First, you said, why is it high
in the private sector?
Private sector.
Yes.
You know, most private sectors, the bosses are, the owners are the bosses, and they are the law.
True.
Yes, the HR is reporting to that boss, and the boss is the one harassing the young lady. So, of course, you know the end result of that. So, definitely, you don't have anybody to report to because the HR was employed by the boss. And is it the employee that want to sack the boss? So that's why it is high in the private sector. And then, like I said, from one of my explanations, we got from our findings, it was revealed that bosses, superiors, are the major perpetrators of this barbaric acts. They are the major perpetrators. Like, they are doing, to them, they are doing you a favor. Like, I'm paying you, so in turn, you have to give me something back. So they are the major perpetrators.
Even in the workplace, do you think colleagues help each other in terms of reporting sexual harassment? Because sometimes these ladies will definitely talk to one colleague. Have you ever seen a situation where everybody teams up? Because they are actually scared of losing their jobs.
Yeah.
So nobody will want, they'll just tell you, please, it's your own cup of tea, just face it. But what do you think should be done when such things happen?
Okay. I was privileged to be part of the research, like the team that interviewed some of the respondents. And this lady, she was from the public sector. Her boss obviously was sexually harassing her. And then she, you know, she had some levels within the service, the civil service. So she had to confront him, and eventually the boss was moved from that department. And guess the reaction she got from her fellow employees, like, I beg, be on your own before you go and report me.
Because she reported an evil act.
So now you have to be on your own. And then, you know, once you confide in your fellow colleague, you'll hear a statement like, are you the only one? It's a normal thing. And then some of them will start sharing their experience, like, I had to do it, and is it written on my face that I was sexually harassed? So basically, a lot of people do not want to speak up because of that culture of silence and shaming. We feel, just like you said, it's a man's word. He's free to do whatsoever he wants to do. This is not neglecting the fact that women also harass women. It might not be sexually, but verbally, women do harass.
I know men face same thing
Yes.
too, but of course, you know, men with their ego, they don't speak up.
Yeah.
You know, people laugh at them or make jest of them. But for the women, do you think people are speaking up enough?
No. People are, the young women generally, they are not speaking up. And then I was listening to a conversation over the radio, and the presenter was saying that even when you are willing to offer them support, at the verge of getting that justice or getting the partner or the perpetrator punished, you see them withdrawing back, taking back that,
mind your business.
Yes, that this is their life and all. So women, we need to speak up. That's why we're having conversations like this. People need to be educated. There is a lot of re-education that needs to take place, because this has to do with behavioral modification. Women have come to accept that this is a man's
Normal
word
thing.
and is a normal thing, is part of their nature, and so be it. I'll just have to endure because I do not want to lose my means of survival.
Don't you think culture contributed to this?
Yes, of course. Cultural norms. We have been socialized that, and he's superior. He's a man, so he's superior, and we, as a female, you are just there to serve him. You do his bidding. So culture plays a major role, and that's why we also tend to engage with traditional rulers, because they play a major role in influencing people using their position. So culture plays a major role.
But so far, how has the cultural or the traditional leaders been supportive?
For now, we've not really had interactions with them. We focused on engaging with bodies that can ensure the ratification of the ILO Convention on Workplace Sexual Harassment. So that's the Federal Ministry of Labour and Productivity. We have the Nigerian Labour Congress, as well as the International Labour Organization. So we are focused more on that. But going further, we intend to engage them, because culture itself is a major factor that is pushing forward career barriers against young women.
14% of women have reported that they have been raped at work.
Yes.
That is 3 in 20 women. How can this be stopped?
Still, boys.
You know, because this actually, when I mention things like this, it gets me very emotional. Like,
Yeah.
is there no one at that point to help or something? And most times when they, like you said earlier, most times when they come out to talk, they are talked down on.
Yeah.
Why would you? It's just that of recent, women have started speaking up. But when it comes to the office, you know, thing, the workplace is a sacred place where you do your job and you get out.
Yeah.
Now, committing the crime of rape in that space, how is this handled? Because I feel it's a very, you know, punishable act.
Yes. Yes.
So how can this be handled?
Well, you know, when it comes to reporting of rape, it involves a lot, like the procedures that victim will have to go to in order to get justice. You have to recount the experience when you get to the police station. You are not expected to even wash your body. As a rape victim is not expected to wash her body immediately it happens. She has to go with the clothes. She has to go there the way, as you know, dirty, let me use that word, because it feels that way. You go record your report, your statement, and then you will have to, for instance, you report to Officer A, and then Officer B comes. Officer B will now say, oh, how did it happen? You still have to start again. So going through that trauma, because it's traumatic, a lot of people would rather remain quiet. You go there, and then you hear statement in, you know, some of our police officers can be so
nice.
Nice. Yeah. You now hear statement like, what were you even doing in that gas office all by yourself? Like that. But there's this story my boss shared with us of how a security officer was able to intervene and rescued a colleague from being raped in the office. So he noticed that it was past work hours, and this young lady is still there, and just the boss are around, so he had to intervene. But still, the culture of silence, still, and then, you know, being tagged that she was raped, and then people start looking at the lady with one kind of, you know, that she's an object of pity, and as well as she's maybe she has been used and all. So the person would rather remain quiet. And one of the respondents I spoke with while on the field, she was like, the person that even did it was her boss's friend.
In the office?
Yes. And why she couldn't speak up is because she does not want the relationship to be broken. And it will be, just as you have said, his word against hers because she does not have any evidence against him. So she had to remain silent.
That's quite terrible. 3 in 5 women experience physical sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Now, how do you explain physical sexual harassment aside rape?
Okay. You know, somebody can just come and hit a colleague's bumps, like, have fun now. So that person is a joke. But then, that's part of physical. You are touching the person or pinch. All this, it has sexual undertone attached to it. So this, in this case, there was no penetration and all of that, but still there was physical touching. So that's why.
We've been discussing career barriers and workplace sexual harassment against young women. We'll be going on a short break, and when we come back, we'll go right into how this can be curtailed. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Feminine Scope. We have been discussing career barriers and workplace sexual harassment against young women. And we still have our guest in the studio, Blessing Ejeh.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back. We've been talking sexual harassment, and all that. So now, how can we involve the government in this?
Okay. And would involve the government by ensuring that beyond signing to the ILO Convention C-190, it should be ratified in Nigeria, because I believe that without the ratification of that convention, it's not substantial. So the government would have to ensure that that convention is ratified immediately, because that's the policy that clearly defines that sexual harassment at workplace is an offense, and then spells out the different forms it can occur. And then people can use this, victims, lawyers can use this in the courts of law. So the government should come up by ratifying the laws and then ensuring that policies that will mitigate against these barriers is enforced. And then we have the National Orientation Agency. They should also be involved, because they are obviously about public and creating awareness and public enlightenment. So they should be involved. They should be involved. It's important that they come up with programs and awareness creations that would enlighten the public about it. And we're very much in partnership with them, the National Orientation Agency, because we recently got an endorsement with them. So we'll be working closely with them.
Well, seeing that there's a very high rate in the private sector, how can you go around to educate people or create an awareness about this?
Okay, we've started distributing copies of our research findings, and we give to some private organizations like hotels, radio radio stations and all. So we are going further to getting an opportunity with this organization to speak with not just the management again, but we'll be speaking with staffs of the organization to enlighten them, because part of our respondents revealed that they were sexually harassed by their subordinates and colleagues. So we'll speak to everyone. We are going to engage in advocacy, workplace advocacy, where that would involve every member of staff to enlighten them about this issue.
Knowing that all this now is going on, you mentioned educating them, creating awareness. Yeah. What of people who wouldn't want to come out? You know, they don't want to break the silence. How can this be handled?
Oh, yeah.
Would you force them to come out? Of course, they are consenting adults.
Yes.
You know, that's what everybody will say first. Is an adult, you can't. But you find out that these people are going through trauma.
Yes.
Now, how can you make them come out? And is there any arrangement for them to go through therapy?
Okay, that's a very good question, ma'am. So I'll say that having an independent body that will checkmate organizations like the CAC, we can have anonymous boxes, boxes that anonymously people can report and submit there, and that independent body can go there once in a while at intervals to check. As a victim, yours is to just report Mr. A in so department sexually harassed me. We don't need the name of the victim anymore, so that the person will not be further victimized, like maybe lose her job. So anonymously, you can just drop that report. That way, people will feel comfortable reporting. And to even add to that, during our research, a lot of persons, young women that we would have interviewed, opted out at some point because
Why?
It was traumatic for them going over their experience. So we are in collaboration with sisters organization, particularly those that are capable, that are
into mental health.
Mental health, to ensure that healing processes are provided for these victims. And we even reached out to the FCT Sexual Assault Referral Center because they are into issues regarding victim, providing support for them. So we reach out to them and we'll work with them to ensure that these young women are supported, because sexual harassment has a way of affecting the mental health of these young women.
So what are the existing systems or processes that will be put in place to ensure that these young women are protected and supported?
Simple rules and regulations. Let's even start from the organization. Simple rules and regulations. Okay, this behavior is considered sexual harassment. We've said jokes. We've said unwanted phone calls. This are not allowed within our organization. And it should not be just written laws. It should be laws that will be implemented. You know, in Nigeria, we are gifted in, is it not law? We'll just write it down. We have laws.
So following through is always a challenge.
Okay, now the ILO convention, Nigeria quickly we have signed to it, but ratifying it has become an issue. So we have to ensure that in as much as we are making these laws, they are being implemented, implementable laws, and ensure that there are disciplinary measures taken. If it gets to a situation, you can even publicly discipline that person, because I feel that will deter further perpetrators from that act.
So what aspect of protecting young women's rights is your organization most concerned with?
My organization, from our vision, we are concerned about leadership. We're concerned about empowering the young woman to take on leadership position. It's enough of having us relegated to the background. We also have brilliant ideas that we can even use to move this country forward. Check the likes of Sweden, Germany. These are countries that gave opportunities to women, young women, like Finland. Majority of their cabinet members, ministers, are young women between the ages of 30 and the likes, and they are doing fantastically well. We can achieve that in Nigeria. So whatsoever that is limiting young women, Air Women Hub is against that. We are actively against that. We want young women to be at the space. We're not just talking about political leadership. We're talking about leadership across all spheres of life.
But don't you think most times that young women are their own problems? Because you give a young woman an opportunity, she misuses that opportunity and shuts the door for the next person. So how would you do that?
We will not stop talking. We will not stop. In as much as we have one person that didn't really perform, will not use that to judge the rest of young women. So we'll also engage in capacity development for young women, would advise them, because it's not enough to attain that position. You must add value. You must be you must be value driven in order to even beyond that position you get today. You should also aim at getting further opportunities that are even higher than that. So we'll not stop creating re-education for young women, and some of our programs have involved career capacity development in terms of leadership skills and as well as life skills. So we'll engage further with them. And then as a young lady, you must ensure that you are a role model. You must ensure that already we live in a competitive world, and we live in a world that do not really give young women that opportunity. So I would not even want a young woman to abuse or misuse rather her position. So we ensure that they are properly guided, and then they should add value.
Most times we're talking about creating structures and all that. Don't you think they should involve their staffs when they are creating these structures? You know, probably when they are going to have a meeting, they'll call the staffs, but some don't even take into consideration their staff when they are doing this. So how can you educate them about this?
Organizations should go beyond seeing that staff as just an employee. You should know that that staff is a human being with rights. So if you see that staff as a human being, just like yourself, you would want to involve that individual. And then I feel no idea, no knowledge is foolishness. So get them involved. You know, it would even, that's individual you're thinking might not even have any reasonable thing to contribute to your organization in terms of maybe their ideas. It may turn out that that person has a lot to even offer. So they should be involved. Every staff should be involved. Okay, if your organization is too big, at least every staff across all levels should be involved in policies, design, and all.
But if let's say in quote, a staff is enjoying that attention she gets, do you think she will be involved in it?
That's why we say sexual harassment is unwelcomed. If the staff is enjoying that, like I told you that the copper, that a male colleague came into the office and was like, wow, you look hot. It feel as if I should rush into it. When the authorities heard that, that's the management of the organization, they were angry and they frowned at that. And the female copper was like, no, he's only joking, it's not sexual harassment.
Oh, wow.
So in that situation, you just have to educate that individual. Because when we were conducting the research, at first, when you ask young women, have you been sexually harassed at work? No, I've not been sexually harassed. But when you now explain that this is sexual harassment, you now say, oh yes, I've been sexually harassed. So there is need for more education and enlightenment creation.
You know, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
What is the extent of sexual harassment in the workplace? And can you define the types of behavior we would assume as, or we would say is sexual harassment?
Okay. Out of the 1,060 young women we had contact with, 51% of them revealed that they were sexually harassed. So you can see that it's high, 51%. So sexual harassment at workplace is high within the FCT because our scope was the FCT. Yes, for now. So
I'm trying to imagine if you now do
Lagos,
the whole country, not even just the whole country, what will come out?
So we are hoping to do that. So, and sexual harassment is prevalent within the workspace in the FCT, and then you have unwanted phone calls, you have online stalking, you have humors, comments, you have pressurized dates. You must go out with me.
Oh, that's sexual harassment.
Yes. It's unwanted. I don't want it, but you are pressurizing me, and then you are using something in exchange. Like one of the respondents shared that she got into civil service, and there is need for posting. The posting letter was before her boss, but the man was like, no, he's not going to give her that until she gives him what he wants. So it's a will I say trade by barter. So you now see you are pressurizing that person, and you are using what that person needs. You are using a need in that person's life against that person. So those things are not proper. Pressurized dates is also part of sexual harassment. The person does not want to go out with you. Just accept. It's simple truth. And then gifts,
unsolicited
gifts. And you are now even asking that the person must accept it. You gave me perfume. I said, "Oga, thank you, I don't want." Or colleague, "Thank you, I don't want." No, you must accept it. And I've been giving it to every other person they've been accepting. I said I want to be an exception. So those are forms of sexual harassment.
What is the frequent age? You mentioned 18 to 35. Within that 18 to 35, what's the frequent or regular age that is usually sexually harassed in the workplace?
We have from 25 to 35. These are the frequent, because from 18 to 35, basically some 18 are still in the school, but then you would some people have to work part-time. So basically we have from 25 to 35 are the most vulnerable, because they are already out of school, they are in the workspace, and then some of them are job hunting at that point of their life. So they are mostly prone to sexual harassment.
As serious as sexual harassment is, don't you think there should be major measures taken in terms of probably shutting down the organization if it's possible, because it's so high in the private sector? Do you think it can ever come to that extent?
Yeah, I feel yes, it should be, because when people are disciplined publicly, imagine an organization being shut down because they were involved in sexual harassment. It would also serve as an example to other organizations that want to, or maybe somebody within that organization is thinking. That will correct that person's mindset. And we have that as a goal. We want to get involved. We want to partner with CAC, because they are in charge of registering when it comes to organization registering and all. So strict measure would be taken against them, like organization can be delisted, deregistered, delicensed for a period of time because you were caught engaging in sexual harassment. So yes, it is a goal, but we'll still have to work towards achieving that. It may not be easy getting at it, but
definitely
we'll work towards that.
Because if the victims don't break the silence, it will be difficult to do that. Now, what advice would you give to the victims, and how can they go about reporting? Because some might be victims, they don't even know how to go about it, who they should open up to, who they should report to, how to, like you said, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's length of, okay, this happened to me, let me go and do this. And the blame game.
Yeah.
When they go and report, what did you go to do there? What were you wearing? Are you sure you're not the one who tempted him to come after you? What advice will you give the victims?
My advice to victims is that they would have to speak up. You have to just speak up, because in as much as the society we live in has cultured us to accept that we are less, let me use that word, less humans because we are females. But you have to speak up. because you cannot continue. Mentally, you are being affected. Your productivity is being affected. So you have to speak up. And then you can reach organizations like us, Air Women Hub. We are readily available to support you because, of course, you are human. You have rights to accept or reject. And you should not be queried because you rejected a sexual favor. Let me use that word, because somebody is doing you a favor, but you have to trade your body for that favor. No. So you have to speak up. Yes, there's this fear of losing your means of livelihood, but then with support, I don't think you would. It might be temporary that you lose that your job, but then of course you gain it back, and we are ready to support, and you can report to us, and then the FCT sexual and gender-based violence response team, they are actively available 24/7. You can call them at any point in time and they will be willing to support you also.
You know, I asked earlier, don't you think this campaign should start from the secondary school? Because most of these kids, once they are done with their WAEC, they tend to keep themselves busy to work. If they get sexually harassed there, how will they know? How will they go about it? Because sometimes their parents might not even believe them, depending on the kind of relationship and communication they have with their parents.
Yes, that's true. So, yes, it's part of our next steps. Yes. What we'll be doing next, we'll engage in secondary school awareness creation to educate them. Because just as you have said, some kids, students, once they are done with WAEC, they tend to have to get a job before going into the university. And with ASU strike currently, a lot of them are even at home and doing one job or the other, and they are prone to sexual harassment. So we would enlighten. We'll not stop preaching. It's a gospel that we have carried on. So we will continue to spread the gospel.
Because these are types of insecurity, harm, and abuse.
Yes.
When it comes to sexual harassment. Some of the victims are so insecure, probably because of low self-esteem, and they give in because they don't know what to do. How can you advise women to empower themselves to face these things when they see it?
I would say believe in yourself. Yes, the society has placed some restriction, but the worst restriction you could have is you trying to like picture yourself in the light of the perception of somebody else. So believe in yourself, and then do not be afraid to stand up for your rights. It's your right. You have rights to your body. So you can decide that I do not want this person. So you have to just stand up for your rights. In as much as there is this culture of silence, there's masculine norms and all, you have to stand up and then speak up, because if you don't speak up, no help will not come. Nobody will know that you are being sexually harassed. And then you have to, the bottom line is that they would have to speak up.
So how would you tell the government to get involved in this?
Okay.
Because coming from the private sector, of course, the government sector is not really that high, then the development sector too. But all this lies on the government.
Yes.
How can they be seriously involved in this?
The government would have to implement policies, and those policies should not just be written, actionable policies. Let those policies be implemented. CSC is a government institution. Let them get involved. An organization has been reported of having cases of sexual harassment. You just have to take a strict disciplinary measure against that organization. Let it serve as deterrent to others. So those policies, we must ensure that we hold the government accountable to those policies. So it should not just be written. Implementable policies let's ensure that beyond writing it on black and white paper, they should be.
Are you sure these policies will be followed through? Because we know what we see.
That's why we have the media, we have CSOs. So we will hold them accountable to those policies.
But when you go for your media rounds and all that, do you involve government, like government personnel, to come in, sit down, listen, and give their own take on the issues?
Yes, we do. We engaged ICPC because in the course of our research, we're trying to understand how sexual harassment can be corruption. And to our greatest surprise, ICPC considers sexual harassment as a corrupt act because the organization is not just basically corruption. There are other related offenses. So sexual harassment is part of those other related offenses. So, and they are willing to work with us, very willing. They are even willing to go with us during our advocacy visit to these organizations. And then also we have engagement with the Ministry of Labor because they are in charge of employees, employers, and all. So these are people we have engaged with, and we hope to expand our reach to involve. And then we have the NOE to work with in terms of enlightenment and awareness creation.
We sincerely appreciate you for taking our time to be with us today. And good luck on your drive to create awareness and seek solutions to career barriers and workplace sexual harassment.
Thank you so much. It's nice having me.
And I really appreciate your presence.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My guest for today has been Blessing Ejeh, Project Officer, Hair Woman Hub, a social enterprise born out of the need to see more young women take on more venture into leadership opportunities. Finally, sexual harassment is prevalent at the workplace and should be addressed. But most organizations have little or no measures put in place to prevent or protect victims. If young women are empowered with adequate tools to recognize and report sexual harassment at work, curbing or totally putting a stop to it will be easier. Organizations are encouraged to develop and ensure compliance with sexual harassment policies, so these women will excel in their careers and leadership aspiration. That's the much we can take on the program today. Until next week, bye-bye.